injured as a result of other people's negligence for over 50 years here in South Florida. If you get injured as a result of somebody else's negligence, it can be a car accident, it can be a slip and fall, medical malpractice, negligent security. If somebody else's negligence caused an injury to either you or one of your loved ones, give us a call. Our phone number is on our page, our website is on our page, and our email addresses are on our page. Please give us a call for a free consultation. We'd love to help you. Let Zach and I protect your rights.
Marlins fans, will they ever come?
Fish on First Live, presented to you by Burger and Hicks. Make sure to go check them out at burgerandhicks.com, I believe, and you could check out their personal number down below. Fish on First Live, we're back. Cubs Marlins. Unfortunately, Game 1 has been postponed due to inclement weather or incoming inclement weather. Isaac Azut is over there. Maybe he will join us at some point, but I'm here with Eli Sussman, the founder of Fish on First, and we have Lou from baseball and law historian. Lou, thank you so much for joining us.
Great to be with you, gentlemen. Thank you very much. Well, we can't lose today, so this is a good thing.
There we go. Yeah.
Today.
So it was supposed to be AJ Puck versus James Tyon, I think.
Tyone, yeah.
Tyone, okay. But we'll just quickly recap the Giants series, then talk about some other stuff. We know that the Craig Mish article came out today on Peter Benedict, so definitely need to dive into that. But Eli, for sure, a disappointing series. Marlins once again had the chance to win their first series of 2024, win back-to-back games for the first time this season. And, it finally feels like the pitching is making that turn. 3 great performances from Marlins starting pitchers, but unfortunately it just comes down to the bullpen. And in the final game, unfortunately, the offense just couldn't get it going at the final moments.
Yeah, but you touched on it. Like this one, you don't really have to reach that hard to find a positive from it. The starting pitching in all 3 games was very good. The first game was Edwards' return, and that was the bullpen's biggest screw up among them, where he did absolutely everything you could ask for. It still slipped away at the end. Then Ryan Weathers in that one win, maybe the best start of his major league career to this point for a guy that's now been around for parts of 4 seasons. That's not nothing. And like his line, very similar to Eddie's. And then Trevor Rogers, I think one that me personally, I'm lowest on Trevor. He hasn't looked the same as he was several years ago. And still, like, his stuff isn't all the way back. But he pitched so well in this final game, nearly going 6 innings there, making it work. His command of his stuff was really great, and it gave him a chance to win in that one. But as you touched on, the bullpen, even my beloved Declan Cronin in that final game, he ends up taking the loss. He pitched fine, but a couple ground balls that got away. And usually tied into that is the offense still being really inconsistent and limited in that final game. Just the 1 run on 6 hits, that 1 run, the Brian De La Cruz homer, and that was it against Keaton Wynn, somebody that I did not know much at all about him prior to that game. So yeah, it's still a flawed team. But the one kind of mystery, and the reason why they are one of the worst teams in baseball to this point, is because that rotation, which was supposed to be a strength of the team, had been so awful for most of the year to this point. But now 3 straight, and if you even go back to the Max Meyer game, 4 of the last 5, they've gotten great starting pitching performances, and it's what they're supposed to be able to actually lean on and expect throughout the year.
Lou, what was your thought on the series?
Depressing. Starting off with the Ozuna. Was it Ozuna home run in the?
That was on Sunday against the Braves.
Sunday. That was the last. I'm getting them mixed up, but yeah, Sunday. Well, let's start with Sunday because that was depressing. I was at the game with my brother, and I said, if Ozuna bats this inning, the game is over. They're going to lose, and that's what happened. And then it just rolls into no bullpen. If we don't score a lot of runs on the Weathers game, I don't know if we win. But scoring 4 runs in 2 games that you lose is not helping you. And having the guys that are supposed to hit, Jazz not doing it, Luis is just not playing a solid second base. He looks, maybe his batting is affecting his fielding, but he just doesn't look sharp like he did last year. He's being fooled. Maybe they're pushing too hard. I don't know, but it's been it's a disappointing season. I'm disappointed that the Marlins have chosen to take Max and put him in AAA. If you're going to only pitch once a week for 3 innings, then let him stay on the team and let him do his 3 innings in the major leagues and let him sit next to Mel Stottlemyre and let him learn and let him see how things go. Because I just think it's going to kill the kid's confidence. And we saw what happened last year, what they did to Yuri when they brought him down. He didn't come back the same pitcher. I think you leave him on the team, you let him travel with the team, you have good camaraderie. And I don't know, is it about not paying him enough? It doesn't make any sense. But if he's your future, then don't take your future and bring him down. Let him pitch for us every once a week for 3 innings on a Sunday. Let him start the game and let him do what he can do.
Yeah, for sure.
We went really in depth on that on the last show, and it's a little different from Yuri in some ways, but at the same time, yeah, it boils down to the fact that somebody is deserving, where he is very clearly a major league caliber pitcher,
Mm-hmm.
and if you want to reduce his innings, there's a way to do that. And like they say, they're trying to protect him as best they can.
I don't. If he's going to pitch for 3 innings in Jacksonville, might as well let him pitch 3 innings here against better players. What's the difference? I think I read an article something about, well, they want him to maybe work on some pitchers or something like that. But he can do his 3 innings here. We're not making the playoffs this year. I mean, if anybody at this point thinks that this team is a playoff team, I don't. Then it doesn't seem to me that's where we're going right now.
Unless they expand from it's 12 teams now. Unless they suddenly expanded to 28, that might be what you need.
I don't know. We may not have it either there.
Yeah. So there's no direct way that they, as mentioned in this comment, can they gain more years of control? Is that like a motivation here? And that doesn't apply unless he spends really half the year in the minors, which is, it's hard to believe it would come to that point, but that's what it would take at this point, where it's not directly related to that. I think there is some like genuine concern about, like, they want to have this very particular plan for him, and it's harder to do that in a major league game, to have like a prescribed amount of time that you're going to pitch and still have it make sense with the team. But as you point out, and as anybody with common sense recognizes, this is not a contending team this year. This should be a year where you're able to accommodate guys with unconventional situations in there. Yeah, it's just not a black and white situation. He is going to pitch. Yes, David says here, it would be a couple months for them to actually gain a really material benefit from it. But he's scheduled to go on Saturday, for those curious. That'll be his first outing in Jacksonville since getting sent down.
Yeah, Eli, I want to touch on Andrew Nardi. He's had his moments this season for sure where he's looked like the guy we know, but then we look at, a couple series, obviously. I think not yesterday, but I know that's at some point in this Giants series. I think he may have blown a game. It seemed with the Braves.
Yeah.
Just take us through what you've seen differently with Nardi, because it's not a matter of maybe he's lost his step, because there's times, again, he's looked great. There's no other way to say it. He's looked really good, and I know at some point in that Braves series he looked really good, and I think they tried to go with him back-to-back days, and that was when they kind of made the mistake and he blew it there. So just take us with what you've seen from Andrew Nardi.
Andrew Nardi, his 11.74 ERA to this point, and that doesn't even include the big difference from last year is inherited runners. Last year, what made him special is that you could put him in those fireman situations, and he almost always got them out of it. He was one of the best in baseball at stranding those runners. And this year, it has been completely the opposite in that regard. He has allowed how many inherited runners to score? It's in here somewhere. 7 of them. He's allowed more. 5 all of last year. 7 this year. Those are guys that the other pitcher's responsibilities is letting come in those situations. But as you point out, it's just been, there have been flashes where he's the same guy. He threw against the Braves. This was on Sunday when it looks like they were going to win that game. That was Tanner Scott who blew the Sunday game. Right before him, Andrew Nardi, he struck out the side in the inning that he pitched, and he earned it. He was commanding his fastball really well. The velocity was right there. It's been just inconsistent. There have been other times, like his most recent one against the Giants, where he hit a batter and allowed a couple hard hit balls as well. So a combination of both of those things where he's just not precise with his location, and there are some days where the stuff isn't quite the same. Right here, I could put up the game log for people to see on
He
here.
had an immaculate inning going in the 8th inning, I think, but
yeah, he was close. He got the first two guys, and I think 7 out of 9 he was on his way towards immaculate.
First 7, and then well, I'm glad he struck out the side, and then in came.
But
Scott.
Yeah, there are in here out of like 10 games, 4 or 5 of them where he's blown up, where he's allowed multiple runners himself or allowed a couple inherited guys to score in here. Relievers, as much as we trust them when they're at their best and as important pieces of the team as they look during a season or during part of a season, it's just a really fickle job and a really fickle position. There is all the way on the right. That's the difference between his earned run average and his fielder independent pitching. And there's a huge gap. Usually those numbers are relatively close. But I think the realistic part of this is he is getting somewhat unlucky with when he allows his hits and with when his struggles come at the worst possible time. So that's why they haven't sent him down yet. They recently sent down Kevin, one of your boys, George Soriano, who was struggling in a similar way to this point this season. I think this is the first stream since they sent Soriano down. Maybe you could touch on your thoughts on that, considering how good he was for most of last year.
Yeah, I mean, I think Skip said it best. Just the slider's not doing the same damage it did last year. And, it was still good and effective even through spring training. Just something happened during the season. And unfortunately, he's the odd man out in this bullpen. I do think in his last outing before being sent down, he was actually really good, despite the box score maybe not showing it. But Skip even noted it. He had a great outing, and I do think not a mistake to a certain extent. But again, and this is going to be a point that we're really going to hammer. And again, no offense to this guy, but Birch Smith is still on a major league roster over guys in AAA Jacksonville who, at the end of the day, deserve to be up there. And Eli, we could touch on a couple guys. Anthony Maldonado deserves to be up there, and someone like a George Soriano, again, just got sent down, but he is a multi-inning guy who has helped this team in multiple moments this season. When you're getting blown out or you need a guy to hold the lead, you kind of counted on Soriano, and unfortunately, I know there's reasoning for sending him down, but again, when you have someone like a Birch Smith who, I know it's been tough. And you have to send someone down, and it made sense to do it with Soriano. Again, as Eli mentioned, first time he's been sent down since being called up. So certainly an interesting choice, but again, it makes sense. And I think I want to go into the offensive side here, Lou. I want to ask about Brian De La Cruz. I mean, if there's one positive out of this team, it's been DLC. And, I was looking it up today, and one of the big struggles for this offense as a whole has been hitting against left-handed pitching. Brian De La Cruz has honestly made that look extremely easy, but at the same time, with the batting average and then right-handed pitching, I mean, he's been great. He's been great this season. 3 home runs. He is by far the best hitter on this team this year. What have you liked about Brian De La Cruz?
I like the fact that at the beginning of the season he was being booed, and he made a comment about it, and he played through it, and he's doing better. And I like that. Fans weren't happy with the way he was performing early on, and he seems to try to want to take the club on his shoulders, but you can't do it with a solo home run. And I just think we have to have a more patient approach. Even though we lost a lot of games in the beginning, I thought that batters were taking a very patient approach. I thought that Jazz was taking a patient approach, and now it seems that there's a lot more hacking than there is good at bats. I don't know if you guys think the same way, but De La Cruz is leading the team with what, a 275 batting average, 285 batting average. That's we should have several folks just as high as him, and we can't depend on him for all of our offense.
Yeah.
So he's a bright spot. He may be our all-star this year. He may be the guy that goes to the all-star game this year.
That is going to be an interesting question as we get closer about who the team's token all-star would be if nobody richly deserves it. well, they spoiled last year. Had a couple obvious ones, and in most years there is one that does break through. But if that's really what has been really frustrating about this season is like there's not even a single guy that you could get really enthused about who's like going so far above and beyond expectations, especially on the hitting side to this point. But yeah, Del Cruz has been he's somebody that I've been skeptical of coming into the year,
I agree.
and his defense is still an adventure out there. With the only silver lining, I guess, is the injury to Jake Berger has meant that there's now more wiggle room for De La Cruz to DH quite a bit. If you look at his recent games now to this point in the season, he's split time evenly between being in the outfield and being DH. 10 starts in left field and 9 as the DH at this point. He doesn't have like the light tower power that you typically expect from a DH. And as Lou pointed out, like he's one of these many guys that is just not super disciplined. So the walks aren't there either. It's really reliant on him getting a pitch that he can hit a line drive on. And hopefully those come in a big situation. I just noticed this. I didn't realize he has 1 walk this entire year and he has 20 strikeouts. That's disgusting.
It's ugly. It's absolutely ugly. And so the problem is, so who do you blame for this team? Where does the fault lie? Because we didn't sign Soler? It's not anybody's fault that Jake is hurt, but we didn't aggressively go after ball players that would have helped the team. And we were the last team to sign a free agent. And and Tim Anderson's a good ball player, but maybe we needed 2 or 3 folks like Tim Anderson to show the fans that this is a team that wants to be back in the playoff. And I think that was a problem. And now you get to the article from today's Miami Herald, and I just think it's same old, same old. It really, I read it. I think it means I'm supposed to be patient 1 more year. I know he said it's not a rebuild, but it's a rebuild.
That's I'm glad you had a great transition there about Tim Anderson. I know in this article by Craig Mish, great stuff as always. He sat down with Peter Bendix, or I guess texted Peter Bendix. I don't know exactly how this worked out, but they spoke. He asked him 10 questions that I guess every Marlins fan has been wanting to hear. And I guess we won't go question by question because not all, unfortunately. Some of the questions were non-answers at the end of the day, in my opinion. But obviously, I think the one that stands out is when he spoke about the rebuild. And Eli, I guess what stood out to you about this article? There are a couple points that were actually more than what he's given to the general media this year.
Right. Yeah, he does admit the kind of obvious that he thought this team would be better than they have been. I kind of take issue with him describing them as he has to, I guess. It's always a line between what you have to say and how you really feel. He described the team as very talented. Us as a staff, every single one of us thought that this team was worse than they had been the previous year. So I don't know if we actually agree with that or if any objective people would say as much. And the only player, I guess it's stuck out that the only player he mentioned by name was Tim Anderson. He wasn't specifically asked about him, but he just kind of volunteered that, saying that he was somebody we signed. We're very pleased with his performance. Again, that's something that I wouldn't really agree with. I don't think even Tim Anderson would agree with that. He's been a little bit better than last year, but still so far removed from his usual form for most of his career. To this point, he has the same issue as a lot of these other players in terms of both his defense and his plate discipline. So that was a little bit of a stretch there. I guess what stuck out, this is something that he's brought up before about insisting that Sherman has not sent any sort of restrictions on him, that how he operated this offseason, how stagnant he was for the most part, had nothing to do with any sort of restriction that ownership had placed on him. And that most of the hard work that they've done so far been behind the scenes with like filling out that front office and whatnot. It's really impossible to buy that as well. Like that, what we continue to, I think the whole understanding that we have, even if it's unsaid, is that they were going to make at least a half-hearted effort to be competitive this year and keep a lot of familiar faces in place, and yet did not want to go the extra step and actually make those investments to supplement the roster, whether it was not necessarily keeping Soler, but at least using that money on another player at another position. He talked in here about being encouraged long-term about the pitching, but yet how much of a difference it would have made to this team if whether it was like a veteran starter to eat innings or just a reliever to stabilize this disaster of a bullpen, that there were so many options out there on 1-year deals that could have brought things together. So I think that's the one area where there's still no closure whatsoever on the topic of why, even if he continues to stress the importance of the long term, in this offseason especially, there were so many things that could have been done on the short-term commitment to shore up the roster and to bring in either to just certain holes, to bring in just intangibles, but just make the team better on like 1-year contracts that would not have at all jeopardized the future. And so that's what sticks out is what's still missing is that
that didn't hit. We have 3 hits all season, right? 3 hits all season from the catcher's position.
Right.
Yeah, it's all by one guy.
Okay, and it's 2 from one guy, 1 from another, and then and I think the story about Johnny Paredes who came in yesterday, that's a great story. Okay, especially for a team like this, it kind of reminds me of Adam Greenberg when he came in for his 1 at bat a few years ago. It's great to see a story like that. A kid that he's not a kid because he's been 11 years in the minor leagues and he finally gets his chance. That's a wonderful story on a team that's going to win 45 or 50 games at this rate. It's nice to see a story like that on TV. You see his wife is crying and she's wiping back tears and she's got the kids in her lap. It's a great story, but I'd rather have a catcher that's our leading catcher is hitting what, 0.87. The number 1 catcher on our team is batting is it .080 is a .087.
I'll check.
0.97.
Oh, I'm sorry. I took 10 points off. I apologize. But 0.9, that is and I again, is that the best we can do? Is that the best that they could possibly do at this point? And then their rationale as well, they're good receivers. Well, can't we get a catcher that can hit 220? That's a good receiver too.
Yeah, and then I guess I'll play a little, I'm not devil's advocate, but I will look at it more from what, like you did, Eli, kind of look at it in Peter's mind, or from the mind of like, you kind of knew this was going to happen at some point, even this always happens when you bring in someone new, especially a president of baseball operations. He wants his guys, he wants to do it his way. And you knew the organization he was coming from. He was coming from Tampa, which just now, until a couple, like maybe a year or 2 ago, they actually spent the big dollars, and that was on Zach Eflin when they signed him to that deal, which I believe is still right now the biggest free agent contract in Rays history, I want to say, because I know there were more extensions, but free agent contract itself, that may be it. So you have to look at it in that sense, and you want to bring his own people. But again, I do agree with the fact that that team last year was pretty good for the most part, and no one saw what was going to happen with Nardi or Scott for them. Their struggles for right now. No one thought Berger was going to get injured or Rise was going to struggle to kick off the year, but it was still a good team. Could have definitely added a little bit more, but we're going to do our quote-unquote press box report, not from Wrigley Field, but across the street from Wrigley Field. We have Mr. Isaac Azut, who is in Chicago. Take us through, I guess, the minimal day you had over there.
Yeah, it was obviously just a beautiful experience to get into Wrigley Field, get to the press box. You just feel the history in this ballpark, I have to say. It was an awesome, surreal experience. Unfortunately, I'm not going to catch any baseball there tonight. So honestly, right now, I told a few people down there, it reminds me of the 2020 wild card game. The weather looks fine to me. I'm looking out my window. It's definitely cloudy, but it looks like they could have gone a few games in, but with a day game tomorrow, it just made all the sense in the world to not keep these guys here all night, just in case. So it'll be a day-night doubleheader on Saturday, regular game tomorrow. AJ Puck will get the start. No word on the Cubs starter, but yeah, here we are.
I guess you spoke to Skip today. What were some takeaways?
We did speak with Skip. Just mentioned the updated pitching rotation. Like I said, Puck tomorrow. Luzardo will pitch one of the 2 games on Saturday. Not clear as to which one it is. And I asked him about Cabrera, and he said that yes, Cabrera will pitch one of these upcoming 4 games. Well, upcoming 3 games, because Puck is tomorrow. And that's pretty much it. Yeah, I did ask him about, one of his favorite memories in Wrigley, because he obviously played a lot in that division. And he said his first career hit was in Wrigley. He named it was off Ryan Dempster. He named his dog Wrigley. There's a lot of sentimental stuff with him in his ballpark.
I can't believe I didn't have the video handy of you when you went to Wrigley with your dad and got interviewed on one of those broadcasts at the time. That just came to my mind now.
You can tweet it out tomorrow of me and Allison.
I'll have to find it. I don't know if I have it saved anywhere, but I hope
it's on your Twitter. It's on the FOF Twitter under TBT. Just search that up and it'll be there.
Thank you for that.
Okay. Injury report, and we saw Betancourt's pretty close to coming back. I think it should be Tuesday if everything goes well. A couple of guys are progressing. It's on the screen, Isaac, if you want to see it.
Yeah, no, I'm actually going to ask right now about one guy not in there is Braxton Garrett. Reaching out to the Marlins about that right now. But yeah, Sandy is going to play catcher. I think that's pretty fun to see. It'll be either tomorrow or Saturday. Betancourt was the main one, like Eli said. He's on the cusp of returning on the first day he's eligible, which I believe is Wednesday. Yeah. And then Xavier Edwards still just improving. Jake Berger improving. It doesn't seem that serious with Berger from what I understand, so that's good news. Shagwa, he seems to be on the cusp as well. I guess he's going to pitch for Jacksonville on Sunday. And he'll be throwing a live BP on Saturday. Tomorrow, and then the rehab assignment on Sunday. But yeah, nothing really crazy on the injury report today. And I was told to hold off on anything Braxton related, so nothing yet.
Yeah. Well, no news is probably not great news on that, unfortunately. He was so close. For people that are not keeping up, Braxton went like 6 full innings in Jacksonville, like 86 pitches. He was throwing the bullpen, and then experienced, for whatever reason, right after that bullpen session, some dead arm, as they say. So, we'll see. But that was, at this point, 3 days ago, something like that. So, yeah. Well, for anybody that is rooting or hoping that AJ Puck's starter experiment might end soon, it depends on when they have an alternative right there. So I guess it's, maybe that's an odd situation though on Puck, that he's now going to be, he keeps getting pushed back. He got pushed back twice because of his sickness. Now because of the rain, he's going to be on 9 days rest since his last start. So maybe that's what he needs to get his velo back up to what it used to be as a reliever.
Skip suggested that was probably a good thing. Just the more days, the better. It didn't really affect him that much. But something else that Skip mentioned a few days ago when I was covering the Giants game was that, with guys that are converted from relievers to starters, someone asked, how long do you give them before you see, like, okay, is it a failure or not? He said a month. Obviously, it's been a little bit less than a month, but I think Puck has probably 2 more starts within the calendar month to really decide, okay, hey, is this a success or a failure experiment? And I'm going to ask him tomorrow, okay, if it is a failure, do you either send him down to AAA and have him work as a starter there, or do you just cut your losses and put him in the bullpen now? So I think that's an interesting question. We got to find out what the next step for him would be if he's not able to put it together. Obviously, we're all rooting for him to put it together, and I think there's still a chance that he does. He just looks so darn good in spring training that it's in there somewhere, but we'll have to wait and see.
Exactly. Alrighty, Isaac, we'll let you go here. Anything else from Wrigley you want to throw out there?
This transitions well into Flipped Fish, which is his favorite segment. So let's give him a chance to guess that. We'll give Lou a chance to figure this out as well. With every single series, we pick a former player that was with both of the teams involved right now. So we just give you some of their biographical information and see if you can solve it from the hints that we provide right here. So I'd say this one's relatively easy. A former pitcher with both the Marlins and the Cubs.
43 WAR.
Yeah, he had a good career.
Oh, I know who it is.
Mainly as a starting pitcher, born in Venezuela from 2001 to 2012.
I know.
Well, we'll go into our break. Listen to Berger and Hicks, and then on the other side of this, we'll see Isaac or whoever else is able to identify this Flipped Fish player. Stick with us.
We have been representing people injured as a result of other people's negligence for over 50 years here in South Florida. If you get injured as a result of somebody else's negligence, it can be a car accident, it can be a slip and fall, medical malpractice, negligent security. If somebody else's negligence caused an injury to either you or one of your loved ones, give us a call. Our phone number is on our page, our website is on our page, and our email addresses are on our page. Please give us a call for a free consultation. We'd love to help you. Let Zach and I protect your rights.
Way too easy, as it turns out. Do you have a guess, Lou, before somebody else snags it? Who might this be?
Yeah, the only pitcher I can think of that would probably be about that age at this point would be Zambrano.
Yeah. Well done. Carlos Zambrano right there. Most of those years with the Cubs and just the final one.
Yeah, then he was just with the Fish at the end. And didn't he have a meltdown in the dugout with us? I think that's what I remember. Was it with us he had the meltdown?
He had a few meltdowns with the Cubs. So I don't think he
It's
had
the
one.
meltdowns with the Cubs that I remember the best. But
Yeah, it's funny because I mentioned Zambrano today because we were talking about, well, Tim Anderson's locker was extremely popular today. Obviously, he played for the White Sox for so long, and the Marlins do not go to U.S. Cellular Data Field, it is, to the White Sox home ballpark. Is that not what it is anymore?
Whatever. It's
No, I think you're right
guaranteed
on point.
rate. Guaranteed rate.
Guaranteed rate. I think that's what it is,
Guaranteed
actually.
rate field.
Right. Well, the Marlins do not go visit the White Sox this year, so obviously all the Cubs media was there. I'm sorry, the White Sox media was there to check on Tim Anderson, and boy, there was at least 35 reporters at his locker during Marlins clubhouse today. And so I was just thinking about all the times that, I remember Ozzie Guillen's return to Wrigley. Obviously, he was with the White Sox as well. So when he was at Wrigley, he got a lot of media, and Zambrano's return to Chicago was also very popular as well. So we talked about him today, and yeah, he's a good flipped fish for today. 43 WAR. Wow, I didn't realize how successful. I remember he was elite, but wow, good for him. How many wins? 132 wins. Okay, that makes sense.
All righty. Anything else on your end, Isaac, before we send you off?
No, sir. Let me make sure. Let me check my notes. I think that's about it. Oh, and I guess this is germane to the situation. Ernie Banks' statue in the scripture, it says, "Let's play 2," which is what we'll do on Saturday afternoon. So should be fun. Long day in Wrigleyville.
Yes, sir. Alrighty, Isaac. Have fun in Chicago. You have a couple more days there.
I'll try. Peace out, guys.
stay out of trouble.
I'll try.
Alrighty, let's keep it moving. Just quickly talk about this Cubs series. They have most of their team back from last season, so that's good for them. I believe they also made some good additions as well in the offseason, including former Marlin Garrett Cooper. We thought he may have been cut today, but that is not the case. He's here. He is going to face his former
I didn't
team.
understand that rumor because he's been very good, actually.
Yeah, exactly.
On a minor league deal at the very end of spring training, but in the small sample that he's had so far this year, he's hitting, let's see, about 348 with a 1,000 OPS. It's a small sample. He plays only part-time over there. But Lou, are you surprised that he had to settle for a minor league deal this offseason, considering that he was an all-star 2 years ago and that overall just been a really productive hitter when healthy?
Well, that was it with him. It was like him and Anderson. We thought that those were going to be the future of the team, and it was disappointing because when you watched him play, you could just tell that he was giving it his all. There was just something going on. I don't know if it was, his head or family issues, because we don't know. Ball players have families and they have problems in their lives like everybody else, and he was a fan favorite, and it was too bad. And I guess whatever the reason is, other teams felt that they didn't want to take a risk on him, but we'll give you a minor league contract, come visit us during spring training, let's see how it goes. And a lot of these guys can make it, and I'm happy for a guy like him because you'd like to see him do well. He's personable. Like I said, fans like him. Players seem to like him as well. You want to see a guy like that succeed, but he shouldn't do too good against us this week.
Right.
We could only hope.
Yeah. But yeah, I would expect him to. He'll play, especially against lefties, and the Marlins almost all they have is lefty pitching. So I would expect him to start at least 1 or 2 games in this series. overall. I joked on Twitter that this is him actually talking with the Marlins assistant trainer, and that's somebody that he knows very well from all of his injuries that he had on and off throughout his years. I guess they've had a so. And for just anybody that forgot, he was, when they traded him away to the Padres last summer, that is how the Marlins acquired Ryan Weathers, who at this point has been like one of the few bright spots to the team and somebody that's starting like a legit starting pitcher. And that all came because he was still somewhat coveted at this time.
Can we also say that it's because Kim was there? That's what we're missing, and that's where we are. So she makes that trade, and we get Weathers. We get Bellenberger through her. Okay, so who on this team have we acquired that we're still living off her back? And I'm disappointed that her relationship with this team ended the way it did. I thought that she was given the door, and she never should have been given the door. She should have been given a raise. She should have been given a multi-year contract. You brought us to a point that we never expected to be. You have succeeded beyond our. If she was an employee of mine, it would be, tell me what you want and let me write you a check. Tell me tell me how many more years you want to be with me, because I want you to be with me those many more years, because you have certainly outperformed any of our expectations. That's what should have happened, but that's not what happened. And it's the same old, oh, we're not going to rebuild. Yes, we are.
It was, all things considered, just the timing was apparently really complicated the situation, that her contract had reached the final guaranteed year of its deal, and the timing, but I guess that all goes back to the contract they originally gave her. Like, if she was given from the get-go kind of a longer runway, then that decision could have been saved for this year instead of last year. And yeah, so now, yeah, I think
somebody just performed for, there's the old story about Ralph Kiner wins the MVP award, and he goes to Branch Rickey on the Pirates, and he goes, I want a raise. And Branch Rickey says, I'm not giving you a raise. We could have finished last without you. But this isn't that story. This is a story that I like a raise because I put us to a place where I've never been before. And instead of saying yes, now we're going to restrict you, and we're going to give you somebody above you that you got to make decisions with. And I thought that was totally unfair. And I'm a season ticket holder, I'm quite disappointed in how the Marlins treated her. I just thought it was absolutely wrong. If you were Eli, if you were the general manager and you had a season like that, you would have gotten a raise. That raise would have been announced the day the team made the playoffs, because that would boost the morale of the team. It would boost the morale of the fans. It would just boost everybody's morale. Kevin, the same thing. If you're Skip and we do that on the last day of the season, I announce that I've just extended your contract for 3 more years. That's how you boost it. Not to turn around and secretly over the wintertime say, all right, we agree that you're going to walk away at the end of the season. And then to find out about it sometime, the second week of the season, it just knocks the heck out of everybody. No matter what Skip says publicly, the relationship just can't be that good, knowing that he's really a lame duck manager.
Yeah, but that's something that to follow kind of throughout the years, because that's a job where even though you're focused on winning every single day, the decisions you make are also supposed to be forward looking as well. And it's tough for that's why you rarely see managers in that position, in that lame duck spot, because it's naturally, it's not optimal for them to actually execute the job if they have a strong sense that they're not going to be there moving forward.
Well, if they fire him, they have to pay him. But Dan Jennings is always available to come back and manage a couple of games.
For sure. All right, let's quickly talk about this Cubs team, because they have a very good pitching rotation coming up for them against the Marlins. I believe game 1, it was supposed to be James Tyone. Then you had, I believe, Shota Minaga in there. Javier Assad, who's actually been really good for the Cubs. You have a couple other guys in there. Eli, what stands to you about the Cubs? What do you like about that team? Obviously, they were able to bring back Cody Bellinger, which was a huge, huge acquisition for them. There you go. Jordan Hicks is in. No, not Jordan Hicks. Javier Assad. Kyle Hendricks has been struggling, and we'll see how that doubleheader looks for them. So, we could show this rotation now, but not exactly sure how it'll end up looking with that doubleheader.
Yeah, I guess just recency bias. The thing that jumps out to me is how much Kyle Hendricks has struggled for somebody that was so consistent for them for many years, and did it somebody that you thought could age gracefully because he's a finesse pitcher, not an actual like power pitcher as well. But he has been about as lousy as any starting pitcher in baseball to this point. Through 4 starts, he has a 12.71 ERA. He's allowed more home runs, more earned runs than anybody else in the majors. To this point, he's not even a qualified starter because he can't get deep enough into games. He's not getting outs. He can't even get those innings. I'll be interested to see that. That could be a rare day where you'd hope the Marlins could explode. But knowing them, maybe that's the one day where he finally gets right and actually straightens himself out and looks like a respectable starter again. But those 2 middle guys, assuming they stay in that order, Imanaga and Assad, both fascinating for different reasons. And Imanaga, he was one of the few free agents this offseason that got less than expected at the high end of the market, where a lot of starting pitchers got more, I would say, at least on a per year basis. But I think he had some injury questions during the contract negotiations that like really limited the guaranteed dollars for him. It was supposed to be, I think the speculation was he could be an $100 million pitcher, and instead it gets negotiated down to 2 years, $22.5 million, with a team option later on that could, make it a lucrative deal. It's still a lot less than expected for somebody with his upside. And he, for anybody that's not familiar, he has not allowed an earned run through his first 3 starts in the big leagues this far. So he just has this really unique fastball and a unique splitter that play really well off of each other. He's a lefty, and it seems every year the Marlins kind of struggle against lefty pitching, and they faced so many of them so far this year. That's the one day where they had a pretty clear advantage starting pitching wise. But yeah, besides that, like it just comes down to the hitting and the bullpen. We discussed the bullpen that the Marlins have and how much inconsistent that is. With the Cubs, theirs is fine, nothing extraordinary over there. It's more so about an interesting test for this last turn of the rotation for the Marlins was really encouraging, but can they actually keep it up against a really deep Cubs lineup that has just up and down a lot of guys that can do damage to you?
Especially with Luzardo, who's kind of struggled, especially in that last start. I believe it was the Yankees series. May have been, actually, no, the Braves. He gave up 5 earned in that one, not looking good whatsoever. So you're just hoping he could bounce off of that. And really after that, you just hope Puck and Luzardo really get it going in this one start against Chicago. They have a good chance to do so. It's a really good Cub lineup. But Lou, just take us through what makes you most confident about the Marlins possibly getting some games into, winning some games going into the series.
What makes me confident that they're going to win game? You said games plural.
You could say
it's a 4-game series, 4 opportunities instead of 3.
But the optimist in me says take 2 out of 4. The realist in me is it's not a problem with the starters the last few games. It's the bullpen. Are we going to get a bullpen? Are we going to play small ball? Are the players going to be more disciplined at the plate? Are they willing to do some bunting? Are they willing to give up some things and not play too aggressively? Take their time at the plate and wait it out a little bit as opposed to just hacking away. I don't know. I don't know. I would, if I'm picking, if we win 2 games, it'll be a nice series.
Yep.
What do you think, Eli and Kevin? How many games are they going to win?
We're going to find out in just a few minutes. That's our final segment where we give our official predictions right here. As I take a look at this group, the position player side for both teams, just to quickly touch on the Cubs. Garrett Cooper right in the middle there. Michael Busch has been one of the hottest hitters in baseball. He's hit, I think he had a stretch where he had 5 home runs in 5 games, and he's now taken over as an everyday player. Expect as good as his regular stats are, the underlying numbers say that he's hitting the ball about as well as anybody else in the big leagues as a slugger in there. And Cody Bellinger off to a relatively slow start, coming off that great year that he had in 2023 for them. But it's a really deep lineup. If Cooper is playing well on the days that he plays, with Dansby Swanson and even this diminished form of Bellinger right here. Yeah, it's just a relatively deep lineup. And on the Marlins side, I mentioned this. A trend that I don't think has really been talked about very much is how the Marlins this year are hitting even more ground balls than usual. Jesus Sanchez is like a principal offender of this, but so many guys are. It's not just the double plays, but even it really stood out in the last game that they played against the Giants, where it just felt like everybody was rolling over and hitting grounders that just have such a low probability of becoming hits in the first place. And they are so far and above doing this more often than any other team in the majors. I think I have that stat right here for them, where over like the last 20 years, they've won the highest ground ball rates in baseball for any team ever. This is just such an anomaly where almost everybody on this team, they're the principal guys like Sanchez, like Avi Garcia. He does it a lot as well, but really up and down. It's just such a mystery to me that it's so contagious across this entire roster. And I don't have a great explanation for it, considering that it just doesn't happen at this frequency ever in the recent history of baseball. I got to think it will normalize a little bit. But that is, in this particular matchup, just going back to the starting pitchers, with Kyle Hendricks, who's allowed more home runs than anybody, with Imanaga, who, as effective as he's been, he's an extreme fly ball pitcher. Like, this matchup could be a sneaky opportunity for them to actually break out a little bit offensively, just because the main thing holding them back, in my opinion, is this propensity to hit the ball on the ground. And now they're facing some pitchers that, even if they are pretty talented guys, they are susceptible to allowing fly balls. And if this group puts the ball into the air, there are several guys that could do damage. So I think that's just one aspect of this, between that trajectory of the ball from the Cubs pitchers versus the Marlins hitters. And I guess we'll find out which way it goes when those factors collide.
Yep. Alrighty. I think with that being said, we could go into prediction time, Eli. Again, no game being played today, so not much more we could really dive into in terms of lineups, and we're trying to do our best, I guess. So, alrighty. Remember, doubleheader on Saturday. So,
four total games instead of 3 that we have here. We queue up our music. In a moment, just for Lou, you're going to tell us how many games you think the Marlins are going to win. And a series MVP pick, it could be from either team, either the Cubs or the Marlins in this one. We'll start off with Kevin. He likes to hit lead off in this.
Alrighty. So I'm going to go with the Marlins winning 3. I feel pretty good, especially with that doubleheader in the middle there. So good chance to get the Cubs a little bit off their feet, or get them, kind of catch them off guard. And series MVP, man, I'm going to go with Brian De La Cruz. I think Noah would be happy with this one. He has been hitting the ball very well as of late, and I think that 2 to 3 spot in the lineup's really done him well, especially if he's DHing. I think that plays a big factor into it. So, yeah, I'm going to go with Brian De La Cruz. He came in clutch yesterday for the Marlins against the Giants. Unfortunately, didn't go their way, but he's been really good for the Fish, and he's going to a pretty hitter-friendly environment in Wrigley.
Okay, Lou, let's hear from you. Marlins wins, and who is your MVP?
I'd say 2 wins and Luis Ariz. That I think Wrigley would be good for him. Be able to spray the ball around a little bit, and we'll see. He played a lot of. He's starting to do a lot better, and maybe being on the road and will just be better for him. So two wins for the Fish, and Luis at second base.
For longtime viewers, you already know where I'm going with this. If it's an even number of games, it's always a series split. Except in this case, I am throwing a curveball in this case. The Marlins are down so bad. They've lost every series they've played to this point, and I just cannot even give them the credit for a sweep in this one. Not even that consolation. I still think the downward trend continues for a little bit longer. The Cubs winning 3 out of 4 in this particular series. Somebody we haven't mentioned all stream, Christopher Morel. He is a lefty masher in particular. He should be facing likely 3 lefty starters during the course of the series. I think he'll do a lot of damage at the plate, and that will get him MVP honors. Very good.
Alrighty, we're gonna wrap it up here then. Again, game is tomorrow, I believe. Eli, I want to say 2:20 p.m.
2:20 Eastern. That is the very peculiar start time that the Cubs and nobody else ever plays Friday afternoon games except for at Wrigley. So those two. Then we have the doubleheader on Saturday starting at 2:20, and then the game on Sunday also 2:20 Eastern time. So that's
Alrighty.
deck.
So, Lou, once again, thank you for joining us. We're going to sign it off here from Eli, Lou, Isaac.
Kevin, thank
Thank you
you.
so much for hopping on, and we'll see you guys on, I want to say, Monday against the Atlanta Braves.
Go Fish.
Okay.